Hello, Chris Worden. So this video I'm going to call bullshit on a number of insolvency myths. These are generally the things that you hear off John down the pub. So I'm going to go through them. I made some notes because there's quite a few. First insolvency myth that I would like to bust is insolvency means the end of your business. Not necessarily so. Okay, a liquidation may mean the end of the company, but it's not going to stop you from setting up another company doing the same thing in the same area. There are certain things that you've got to follow, but potentially insolvency does not mean the end of your business. Okay, myth number 2 that I would like to call bullshit on is insolvency means you're a failure. Not necessarily so, okay? What insolvency means is the business that you set up as a limited company has become insolvent. Oh, okay, yeah, it might mean that you're a failure, but it also might be because you've not been paid. You know, I can't tell you how many companies I've had to help that the only reason that they've become insolvent and sought insolvency advice is because someone up the chain didn't pay them. Consequently, they couldn't pay other people. Very little to do with the abilities of the director. You know, liquidation doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means that particular business that you were involved with is no longer viable. I were involved in a business that went into liquidation, and it went into liquidation because the government changed the goalposts on something that we were doing. Sound familiar? You know, the funding got pulled. Our business that were tootling along really well for a number of years, paying tax, employing local people, literally overnight the business model was over. And I felt a failure, you know? But it's only in hindsight that you see the benefit of these things. So insolvency does not mean you're a failure. It's just something that happens, and it happens to lots of people. And it's generally some lessons are learned and you can move on. So, number 3 myth that I'm calling bullshit on is you can't liquidate with a bounce back loan, a CBILS loan, or a recovery loan scheme loan. Yes, you can. You know, I mean, I've been involved in hundreds, maybe over 1,000 jobs over the last few years where the company has liquidated with a bounce back loan, a CBILS, or a recovery loan. You can liquidate with one. Number 4 that I'm going to call bullshit on. If you liquidate, you will be liable for the company debts. Not necessarily so. In fact, in most cases, as long as you've behaved correctly as a director, when you liquidate, the debts that are the company's, remember, they're not yours. You are not the company. I could be Chris Worden here and Chris Worden Limited there. That limited at the end of Chris Worden gives me protection and limited liability. So if Chris Worden liquidates Chris Worden Limited, and as long as I've behaved properly and carried out all my fiduciary duties as a director, the debts that are in Chris Worden Limited will go into the liquidation, and I won't be held personally liable for them. You might be held personally liable for things like personal guarantees. You might be held personally liable for some or all of the business debts if you've been at it. If you've been nicking all the money out of the company, if you've been, you know, doing things you shouldn't have done with the bounce back loan. I've done hundreds of videos on them, guys. But to think you're going to be made personally liable for all your business debts is bollocks. So myth number 5. And I cannot read my handwriting here, so let me just have a look at my notes here. There we go. Going into liquidation means you're going to be banned from being a director. Bullshit! That's not the case. You can liquidate a company and be a director of a number of other companies. The only reason that you would be banned from being a director is if your conduct is called into question on the company that you've liquidated. So, you know, since COVID, bounce back loans, furlough fraud, all that carry on, yeah, more directors are getting banned. But the directors that are getting banned have done something wrong. You know, as long as you've behaved appropriately, you liquidate a business, you're not getting... It's not up for me to say, but it's highly likely you won't be getting banned as a director, okay? You will be able to carry on. You will be able to start another business. Where am I at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think this is myth number 6 that I would like to call bullshit on. You will be made bankrupt if you liquidate a company. Bullshit! No, you won't in 99% of cases. Because remember, a limited company gives you protection, limited liability. So although the company may have accrued a number of unsecured debts, they're not yours, the director. Now, there are circumstances where a director is made bankrupt as a consequence of a liquidation. It's not because of the liquidation, but let me give you an example. Your business is insolvent, you go into liquidation, and the director has signed lots of personal guarantees and he cannot settle the personal guarantees, he cannot do deals with them. Eventually that director will be made bankrupt. That's in the minuscule amounts though. Even if you've signed personal guarantees, 99% of the time, the institutions that you've signed the personal guarantees with just want the money back. You'll get deals done to pay them over a prolonged period of time. So you are not going to be made bankrupt if you liquidate in 99% of cases. Myth number 7 that I would like to call bullshit on is, if you liquidate, it will affect your credit score. Bullshit! Again, a company is not an individual. A limited company has nothing to do with an individual. So you may liquidate a business, it will not appear on your Experian. It will not appear on your credit score. And even if you have signed personal guarantees for things like overdrafts, loans and suppliers, as long as you get deals done with those people you've signed personal guarantees, they have no reason to put anything on your credit file. And the last myth that I would like to call a super bullshit on is a liquidation's only going to cost you $2,000. Bullshit! No liquidator in the UK charges $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 to liquidate a company. And if that's what they're telling you, mark my words, there is a sting in the tail and something's going to bite you on your arse down the line. The cost to liquidate a small company in the UK is about £4,000 plus VAT. But remember, that's only the headline figure. You may get pursued for things like misfeasance claims, preference payments, overdrawn directors' loan accounts, and if you've been at it with a bounce back loan, that's going to cause you a problem as well. So I hope this video has been helpful. I'm sorry for the swearing, but I wanted to get your attention. If you enjoy our content at first, subscribe to our channel. Give us a comment, give us a like, tell your friends about us. Thanks for your time, goodbye.